So Fox News is claiming that American influence overseas is in decline. But what's really going on? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So Fox News is claiming there's a poll out there that shows American influence is in decline. Well, there are so many things to unpack in this claim. Let's just watch the video and we'll go from there.
A new poll found that 47% of Americans say that U.S. influence on the world stage has grown weaker in recent years. And look at that, just 19% say it's actually gotten stronger, and I question those 19%. Why do you think our influence is declining?
Okay, let's start with what this poll says, because I actually looked up this poll. It's from Pew, which is a reputable pollster, but what they found, and as always, I'll link down to the actual data down below, is that basically this perception is based upon, wait for it, partisanship. So in other words, Republicans say America is getting weaker. Democrats and independents say it's basically getting stronger or staying the same. So in other words, this entire thing is a narrative built up by Republican complaining. Let's keep watching.
Declining, Sean?
You know, I think you've seen a weak American economy. You've seen, American leadership focus on, things that don't work, whether it's, critical race theory or transgenderism,
Okay, this is really going to be hard for me not to speak every second that this guy says anything. But let's start with this. Number one, weak American economy. The American economy, let me remind you, is still growing and still has historically low unemployment. Are we suffering a little bit with inflation? Yes, but inflation is now coming down. And wages have been going up faster than inflation recently. So weak economy? I think not, and especially when you compare it to what's going on in Europe or China, where the United States is in a much stronger position. And that's relevant because, of course, we're talking about global influence here. But watch this then, how they pivot into this being really about, the social wars, the culture wars, where this guy echoes very much what Vladimir Putin says, that, America's weak because we're good to gay people and people of color. Just check this out.
woke ideologies. You look at our school system, our professors in universities are teaching garbage to our kids. I saw, my daughter went to the University of Chicago, a great school, and I saw what she was learning. And what you put in is what you get out.
For all the talk, by the way, about people who are conservative being muzzled in expressing their views, it's actually liberals more and more who we're starting to see being muzzled for their views. In Florida, we just saw a report that people who teach a whole host of subjects are either changing their classes or canceling their classes because of the fact that even though it wouldn't necessarily be covered by the anti-woke legislation that was passed by the Florida legislature, that legislation is so unclear that they don't know what they can teach and can't teach, so they're afraid to teach anything. And we also heard that down in Texas, the dean of the School of Social Work at the University of Houston was demoted because of the fact that he questioned our philosophy of just throw everyone in prison. So much for conservatives being muzzled at the universities. Let's keep watching.
Out and they're putting in garbage to these young kids. And I think you put that all together and you look at who's actually, working for this administration. Again, they're more concerned about what the color of your skin is or what, your sexual preference is or how you identify than how competent you are. And the rest of the world sees that. And again, when we go to the open border, you can't control your own border. You can't fly, airplanes.
Okay, let's just be clear about something. Number one, I think that it's hard to question the credibility and competency of most of this administration's appointees, especially where this is an administration that's been moving forward without scandal, actually accomplishing things. Quite the contrast from the last administration, which had a revolving door of cabinet members, one after another facing either indictment or even prosecution. But let's set that aside. The problem they have is the fact that the administration actually tries to have a diverse group of appointees. God forbid that we appoint people who actually reflect America, who might include women, people of color, people of different sexual orientations. God forbid we not just have the continuation of just a bunch of white men making all the decisions. That's what they're talking about when they're saying, oh, they should only worry about qualifications. As it turns out, there are lots of people who are qualified for these positions. The question is, are we only going to focus on people who are white men for those positions, or are we going to open up the opportunity to other people who might not match that demographic? Let's keep watching.
Effectively on that with your infrastructure, and they look at that and go, America is
infrastructure. Let's just talk about that. Who's the president who passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill? I'm pretty sure that wasn't Trump, but that was Joe Biden. Let's keep watching.
Absolutely in decline, and when you're in decline, your influence goes down.
You see, this is a great example, by the way, of Republicans believe that America is in decline because they hear it all the time on Fox News, whether it's true or not. Let's keep watching.
And that's what's happening around the country. And I think it's sad. You know, you saw with 4 years of Donald Trump, some people love him, some people hate him.
Here it comes. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's just see what he says first.
But you saw America on the rise when you put your country first and your countrymen first with policies, and you grow your economy and you rely on capitalism. America is an amazing place. Ashley, you know that. But if you go back to these systems that have always failed, whether in Cuba or Venezuela or the old Soviet Union, we start doing that here, you get the same results of those economies, which is failure and then therefore a lack of influence.
I'll never forget Donald Trump dressing down NATO countries for not paying their fair share. Right. It needed to be done, and Donald Trump did it. They all stood there like naughty school kids, and I just...
Number one, I remember that as well, and I remember that basically they were looking at him like he's crazy. Number two, he actually did not get them to increase funding for their military at all. In fact, actually, the increase has come under Biden's leadership, largely thanks, of course, to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and to China rattling its saber against Taiwan. But be that as it may, it certainly wasn't done by Donald Trump. And what's more is he's also neglecting Donald Trump standing there looking like a school kid being disciplined by Vladimir Putin. Is that something that leads to influence? I think not. And in fact, when we check out the actual data, we find a very different story. This is research also by Pew, the same organization that they're quoting for the other survey here. And what it does is it does research on other countries' opinions and what they think about American influence. Well, as it turns out, take a look at this graph here. It shows that under the Obama administration, the world's thought very well of American leadership. Not so under the Trump administration. And once again, then when Biden comes back into office, American leadership is back up at a high level. It's fallen a little bit, to be sure, since Biden's been in office, but it's still far, far above the highest point that Trump ever had. So when you look at the facts here and not the spin that's being spewed by Fox News, it turns out that American influence is not low. American influence is actually much higher than it was under the destructive lack of leadership that Trump provided. Well, if you want to see another video where I discuss American foreign policy, and in particular, something we're going to be hearing a lot about now that the Republicans are in control in Congress, which is the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, check out this video that I did a little while ago over here, where I talk about the facts that weren't being reported about what really happened in Afghanistan. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.